as the world changes, our ports will need to adapt. We'll work carefully with our stakeholders to look at whether the time is right to provide new living, working and environmental opportunities at some locations. These are big, exciting ambitions, but we know that ABP can't make these changes alone. To get the scale of change we all need, we'll be working with our partners to create a shared vision and build a task force to deliver the missions we develop together. We'll need to ensure that we continuously improve and make sure we share risks, rewards and intelligence. Standing back, this is a port-led transformation with huge implications across Wales and the UK. There's a tremendous prize for success. We'll see a burst of innovation, a dramatically reduced carbon footprint, and thousands of great jobs for future Wales.
Aberdeen's been right at the heart of supporting the offshore energy sector for the last 50 years. It's built up a tremendous relationship with logistics supply chains, with major energy companies and with other service providers. So it's ideally placed now to transfer that from oil and gas onto renewable energy. And Aberdeen Harbour has at its heart a green port strategy on which it can build. One of those strands that we're looking at the moment is reducing CO2 emissions in the harbour. We've done some detailed analysis that tells us that the primary source of emissions in the harbour is from ships alongside. So what we're looking at now is a provision of electrical power, shore power, which would reduce emissions by over 50%. Well, we've completed the feasibility study, which tells us that provision of electricity at berth is feasible. We're now looking at the practical aspects, so looking at detailed berths, looking at the detailed requirement, and working with Connected Places Catapult to deliver that information so that we can follow it up with a demonstrator project. So we need to work with the electricity provider to see whether the electricity that's available to the harbour and the berths at the moment is sufficient, has sufficient capacity to power the ships alongside, or whether further work needs to be done to the infrastructure. This is one strand of our three-strand approach to achieve net zero over the coming years. We're also looking at the provision of future fuels, and we're working with shipping companies and field providers to see what the technology looks like for the future. And the third one is we want to support the wider industry in energy transition. So, for example, the ships will be out there building and servicing wind farms. We want to be able to provide the green fuels, we want to be able to provide the facilities that they need alongside, and that's where our South Harbour expansion project, our £350 million infrastructure project, comes into its strength. We're not just talking about it, we're doing it, but this is a team effort, a joint effort, and we're working very closely with our partners, with our stakeholders, and with fellow port users. We believe that from this work will come the blueprint for the provision of shore power, and it's something that Aberdeen Harbour can share with other ports, reinforcing Aberdeen's role as the green port of the future.
Reducing greenhouse gas emissions is vital to the future of our planet, and ABP is committed to playing its part. Across our 21 ports in the UK, we're delivering on our green ambitions through decarbonising our own operations, supporting our customers in building more sustainable supply chains, and investing in our infrastructure to realise future renewable energy generation. In fact, we've reduced our own CO2 emissions by over 35% since 2014. We've invested over £55 million in sustainability measures, which includes the largest commercial rooftop solar array in the UK at the Port of Hull, electric vehicles and cranes across the group, and our new fleet of more fuel-efficient pilot boats. By the end of 2021, ABP will have 29 megawatts of operational wind and solar assets, generating approximately 19% of our total annual consumption. Our plans over the coming 3 to 5 years anticipate in excess of another 40 megawatts of wind and solar being commissioned, along with energy storage. This will help facilitate further electrification of dockside equipment and transportation at the ports, provide additional zero-carbon power for our customers, and potentially also power production of zero or low-carbon fuels such as green hydrogen electrolysis. As the UK's leading ports group, ABP is at the heart of the green recovery and is setting the pace in the decarbonisation agenda. We're supporting our customers to build more sustainable supply chains in a number of different ways. Our ports play an important role in facilitating coastal shipping, helping to reduce strain on the UK road network and reduce carbon emissions. In fact, we've operated Timberlink at our port of Troon in Scotland for 21 years, handling 100,000 tonnes of roundwood timber and reducing carbon emissions by more than 1,200 tonnes a year. With 16 of our 21 ports connected to the national rail network, ABP also continually invests to support our customers' use of rail freight. But it's not just about how freight is moved in and out of our ports, but where it arrives. Studies have shown that moving just 10% of cargo from southern ports to the Humber could save some 100,000 tonnes of CO2 emissions per year by importing goods via ports closer to their final destination. We're also providing port-centric manufacturing solutions powered by green energy to help reduce carbon emissions and boost economic growth in coastal regions around Britain. And we recently opened our new green cruise terminal at the port of Southampton, fitted with a solar array and shore power connectivity, meaning zero emissions at berth, reducing carbon emissions and improving local air quality. From renewable and low carbon energy production such as offshore wind, biomass and hydrogen production, to carbon capture, utilisation and storage, ABP's strategically located ports are already playing a vital role in driving decarbonisation in energy generation, transport and industry. Our Ports Group is investing millions to help accelerate the growth of offshore wind energy generation. Our Port of Grimsby is, today, the world's largest base for offshore wind. And Greenport Hull, our joint investment with Siemens, and our Lowestoft Eastern Energy Facility, also known as LEAF, are two other examples of our bold investments to support growth in renewable energy, driving sustainable development and creating high-quality jobs in coastal communities. Port Talbot also has a critical role to play.
We're good to go. Yeah. Good afternoon, evening. I'm Chris Dunn, and on behalf of the Malin Group, I'd like to welcome you all to the South Rotunda for the Operation Zero event, organised, as you know, by DFT and REC as part of the Malin Spotlight series. To date, we've had 27 different maritime sustainability events at the Rotunda and in here during COP26, and many of you have been a part of these. I see lots of familiar faces. We continue to be really excited by the level of ambition and innovation that we've witnessed, but I guess that the time has almost come that the talk stops and we have to start delivering on all the promises that we've made, and I guess this is what we're going to sign tonight. But we're looking forward to collaborating with you all and getting stuck into delivering these solutions once all the talking has stopped. A quick safety brief. The weather is looking favourable, so there should be no issues with the venue. There are no fires planned. There are alarms dotted about the place. If you do hear one, then it's likely to be real. So the muster point is in the Malin car park on the opposite corner of the STV car park, so either along the river and up or up the stairs that you came in across the car park. We don't have any protests or disruptions planned for you tonight. We should be all right there as well. We have had intelligence to say there'll be some action on the other side, but nothing that should disrupt us. We've got a security team on hand. Will keep us right. So if you do hear or see anything, listen to them and they'll guide us. That's all from Malin. I hope you have a really successful night. Pass over to Stuart. Cheers.
Thanks, Chris. Good evening, everybody. Thank you ever so much for joining us this evening. We're delighted to have you all here, and I mean that very sincerely. I know many of you in the room, and you'll know that for me this is a bit more than just a job. It's a real passion, and I've had the pleasure of working with many of you, and pleased to see new faces in the room also. Thanks obviously to Malin for hosting us this evening, and a couple of thanks as well, obviously to the department for co-hosting this event alongside us. And also to a couple of the people who've worked really hard behind the scenes, doing all the jobs that need to be done to make things run smoothly. So Romana, Joe and Vicky, yeah, thank you. It's been very hard work to put this on at relatively short notice, but we've done very well, and just looking at how many people have joined us this evening is testament to that. So we've got people here this evening from across the UK, London, Southwest, Grimsby, Belfast, Aberdeen, Newcastle. and also from overseas, from Belgium, from the Netherlands, from Denmark, from Germany. And that's really, really encouraging, because one of the founding principles, I suppose, of Operation Zero, which we're here to launch this evening, is that it's a North Sea venture. And I think everybody in the room is acutely aware that really, in order to achieve this accelerated transition to low-carbon maritime, collaboration is absolutely key. And it's an overused word at times, but in this case, really is essential, and it's obviously what Operation Zero is all about. The industry is we've been putting the case to the DFT for some time, and I'm really pleased that Petra and colleagues have grasped this. The industry is, for me, the place to start on maritime decarbonisation for a whole host of factors, and I'm not going to steal Andrew's limelight, but it's encouraging that so many organisations have signed up to become founding signatories to the Operation Zero initiative, and we look forward to working with you all in the months and years ahead to turn the declaration into a reality. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over and welcome Petra Wilkinson, Director of Maritime from the DFT.
So good evening, everybody. Some of you will be wondering why I'm standing here, and you might have been expecting Minister Courts. So firstly, sincere apologies from the Minister. As many of you will have read, the Secretary of State had an unfortunate accident at the weekend and will not be joining any of the events in COP, and we wish him well. So Minister Courts is taking his place at some of those events. And there was a clash this evening, so he asked me if I would do his speech for you. So what you will hear now is what he would have said to you. So I'm hoping that that's okay for everybody. I might embellish as I go along, but we will see. Okay. So, really great to be here in this beautiful setting on the banks of the River Clyde, right in the heart of COP26. What a week we have had so far, with so much ahead of us for Transport Day tomorrow. Just this afternoon, I had the opportunity to meet some of the winners of the Clean Maritime Demonstration Competition and witness firsthand the work they are doing to accelerate innovation in decarbonised shipping here in the UK. The world is here with us in Glasgow, and we are united in our focus on ambitious action to meet the challenges of the climate emergency. 8 months ago, the Minister had the honour to speak with some of you at the pre-launch of the roadmap for decarbonisation of offshore and wind vessels. That study, produced by the Catapult and the Workboat Association in association with DFT and FCDO, set out some of the barriers to and the opportunities of decarbonising operations and maintenance vessels that serve the North Sea's offshore wind farms. The Minister was deeply encouraged by the enthusiasm of the industry in embracing this work, and I'm really delighted to be able to be here now as it comes to fruition as we launch Operation Zero. Today, there are over 90 high-speed crew transfer vessels operating in UK waters and a further 280 in the EU. On average, these vessels operate for 250 days a year, each burning 1,500 litres of diesel a day. This results in a total of almost 500,000 tonnes of CO2 emissions per year. Offshore wind will play an essential role in the transition to a net zero economy, so the need for these vessels will increase, and to the extent of the estimated 1,600 vessels required by 2050. If we do not act to minimise these emissions and those from service operations vessels, they will only grow. So what can we do? A gap exists where there is broad support for acceleration transition to clean operations and maintenance vessels, and much of the technology already exists, but other barriers remain. Operation Zero aims to surmount these barriers by bringing together industry leaders from across the value chain. We can share best practice and expertise, coordinate on the direction of travel, and de-risk investments. Through collaboration, we can foster further innovation and serve as a springboard for action. There are also wider benefits to be had. Coalitions such as Operation Zero demonstrate leadership. They raise ambition, and by demonstrating that, achieving these forward-leaning commitments is possible. They encourage actors in other regions to follow us, and in other shipping segments to follow suit and transform their fleets. With the rise in investment in offshore wind across the globe, Operation Zero can be a real catalyst to inform how these wind farms are established and operated. The UK and the North Sea currently lead the world in installed offshore wind capacity and demonstrate corresponding leadership in the organisations that operate these assets. This industry has the potential to be a springboard in other ways too, providing early adoption of technologies and market models that can support a broader maritime decarbonisation, as well as impacting the wider provision of renewable energy. The provision of a truly zero-emission marine fuels will depend on the expansion of global sustainable energy capacity. Operation Zero can help drive the full decarbonisation of offshore wind, increase the percentage of clean vessels, and subsequently drive the demand for renewable energy. All of this is what brings us here today. When we published the roadmap in June, we set our sights on bringing together a wide range of industry representatives under Operation Zero. Tonight, I'm so pleased to say that we have doubled our initial targets for signatories, including representation from across the entire value chain and from a wide geographical spread. This is absolutely fantastic news. You are all playing your part, as we are in government. We know that decarbonisation can only be achieved if we work in partnership. This is why we launched the Clean Maritime Demonstration Competition earlier this year. And I am really delighted that we have further funding for a multi-year CMDC included in this autumn's budget. And before anybody asks, no, I don't know the exact amount we've got. I'm working on it. It will be a large proportion of that figure that you all saw. The CMDC is supporting several projects in this field, including research into electric crew transfer vessels and offshore charging vessels. We are also taking steps to develop the right regulation for the sector under a programme of maritime consultations announced in the Transport Decarbonisation Plan. More widely, the UK government's hydrogen strategy, published earlier this year, was clear that shipping will be a major component in the demand for hydrogen and hydrogen-based fuels in the UK in the longer term. Decarbonising offshore wind operations and maintenance vessels won't happen overnight, but we are taking important first steps together here today by signing up to Operation Zero, setting the example through collaboration and leadership. I know the Minister would like me to express his gratitude to you all for your innovation, your ambition, and your dedication, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this voyage with you. Thank you all very much.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Petra. Thanks for standing in at such short notice as well. Never easy. So next up, I'm going to invite my Chief Executive, Andrew Jameson from ORE Catapult. Andrew.
So Petra, this speech says, thank you, Minister. So that's you. So that means you need to stand and we'll all vote for you next time round. So there's a bit of encouragement to start. Welcome, everyone. I'm Andrew Jameson, Chief Executive of the Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult. I live in Glasgow. I'm based in Glasgow. It's wonderful to have this conference here in Glasgow. It's wonderful to see so many faces visiting this fair city. It's good we haven't been too disrupted yet at the moment, so long may that continue. But it's really good to see you all here. So thank you, Minister, who couldn't make it, but thank you to Petra and also to Joe from DFT, who have been helping us organise all of this. I've got a bit of a long, boring speech, and I'm going to try to do my best to go off piste a little bit. But there are some things I definitely want to say to you in this. Briefly, the Offshore Renewable Energy Catapult was established in 2013 amongst 9 catapults. So if you haven't heard of catapults, there are a few of us around. Some of us are very large. So This catapult is based in Glasgow, but we have big test facilities, very, very large test facilities in Blyth. I see Martin there from Port of Blyth, our next door neighbour. We're also in Cornwall, we're in Wales, and we're increasingly in Aberdeen. And we are deeply involved with driving innovation into the offshore renewable energy sector. We're now 260 people strong, and to date we have served driving innovation across 800 SMEs, 800 industrial collaborations, including serving the biggest OEMs in the planet, and we've done over 500 academic collaborations. So impact is a big thing for us. Context. The offshore wind industry is a real success story for the UK. We've seen simultaneously world-leading levels of deployment and rapid cost reduction. The decades ahead will see phenomenal growth in offshore wind as we scale from 10 gigawatts in the UK to 100 gigawatts by 2050, and at European level that's 25 to 400 gigawatts and beyond around the world. Comparisons between the net zero transition and the industrial revolution are seriously not without justification. Clearly for net zero, we also need to be servicing these power stations, and they are power stations, stop calling them wind farms, with vessels that run on cleaner, non-fossil fuel propulsion systems. And already, I'm really delighted, partners in this room are already working to develop what's needed to enable a clean maritime transition. So that's great news. But whilst our net zero ambitions create opportunities for economic growth and jobs in the UK, we need a lot of coordination to get there. And that's where I think ORE Catapult and our partners can offer value. The tasks ahead are challenging, very challenging, but I think achievable. So for example, our own analysis suggests that between now and 2050, more than 500 SOV and more than 2,500 CTV new builds will be required to service the European offshore wind fleet. Maritime is a segment where we already have very high UK content in offshore wind, with some 71% UK content in workboats. So a very, very good, strong starting position. If the UK captures 25% of the European O&M vessel building market, this could generate up to £4 billion out to 2050, and clearly lots of jobs, both direct and indirect, that go with all of that. And beyond shipbuilding, there are of course job opportunities in naval architecture, component design, manufacturing, operations and ports. Many of you are deeply involved with these subject matters already, and clean fuels. All high-value technologies and skills of tomorrow, supporting the just transition and the levelling up agenda for our coastal communities. And let's not forget the international opportunities. Well, the UK opportunities are huge, and European opportunities are huge. So are those that are developing, particularly across Asia and the US. That becomes, I think, for me, for technology and for knowledge, a huge export potential that we cannot ignore. All of this needs innovation. Now, innovation is a strange subject to many people. Lots of people think it's invention, and I don't do invention. Innovation means doing things better next time that you did the last time. It's learning, taking risk out and improving things, ultimately, is how I define innovation. So what we're seeking to do in terms of expanding shipbuilding can't be done by competing on price and volume with yards in the Far East. To be competitive, we must invest in innovation, not just in the design and build of vessels, but also in developing the ecosystem of clean maritime fuel, battery and port infrastructure systems. To achieve this, we will need to harness the capability and skills across other sectors, such as defence, aerospace, automotive, oil and gas, where the UK is already highly competitive. This is why ORE Catapult is delighted to be supporting DFT and industry with Operation Zero. We believe we have the experience and expertise to bring partners together and to help drive collaborative innovation and propel this agenda. We welcome the work of the Minister and his department in launching the first ever Clean Maritime Demonstration Competition that Petra has mentioned. This has provided £23 million of funding to 55 projects for the demonstration of clean maritime technologies. Of these projects, ORE Catapult is either leading or is a consortium partner in 5 of them, totaling £3.3 million thus far of funding awarded. Benefits include our work with ABP, Lloyd's Register, Ørsted, RWE, Siemens Gamesa and others. I may have missed a few, forgive me, to develop plans for infrastructure investment in zero-emission fuels and charging infrastructure at the Port of Grimsby. Alongside this infrastructure, we'll propose investment in skills, training, test and demonstration capabilities, think of that de-risking that I mentioned, that will establish Grimsby as a national clean maritime demonstration hub. Meanwhile, the competition is also funding work in which we're supporting many other partners who are here tonight, including MJR, a Northeast SME, who are delivering a tangible physical demonstration of a genuine world-first game-changing technology, which is an offshore charging system so that vessel operators can turn up at a Siemens Gamesa turbine in the North Sea. I hope I haven't stolen your thunder here. And plug in their electric vessels to charge up. I didn't write that bit, so excuse there. In conclusion, this is a highly innovative space with strong market demand for solutions and a commitment in energy that is difficult to match elsewhere in maritime. It's an industry which is uniquely placed to both the end user but also the producer of clean maritime fuels of the future. The industry is already proving to be an early adopter of clean maritime solutions, and we expect to see that trend accelerate. Continued support from government is essential, always is. Industry wants to act, though, and is acting, and we must be able to rely on working in partnership with government, investors, regulators, and the supply chain to continue to address the difficult challenges, particularly those ecosystem challenges that exist around the deployment of infrastructure. With continued support from government and collaboration between industry, there is every reason to believe that the offshore renewable energy industry will act as a springboard for broader maritime decarbonisation, creating growth, jobs, and exports as it does. Now, I'm going to go off-piste a little bit. I've been around long enough in the offshore wind industry, right at the start when prices were incredibly high. We weren't competitive. Lots of people had given up the ghost that offshore wind was a busted flush, wouldn't deliver anything. I can tell you by strongly working together, this whole point of industry working closely together, working with government, and creating momentum around and scale around what we're trying to achieve, provided the pathways are not impossible. That's the question. Are they impossible? Because if they're slightly feasible, then they're doable. And that's what I see in doing clean maritime. It's feasible, therefore it's doable. What we need is consistency of action and pulling together very strongly, because net zero doesn't give us any other choice. But I am buoyed by the successes. We've done this before in very similar spaces, but pulling our market together to go in a single direction. So we look forward to working with both government and industry on this agenda in the months and years ahead. And following today's declaration signing, we will be committed to putting the support of the Catapult fully behind the future work under Operation Zero. Thank you very much. I look forward to catching up later. Thank you.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Andrew. And our final speaker is here to represent Siemens Gamesa Renewable Energy, and I guess to give an industry perspective on why they decided to sign up to Operation Zero and why they consider it important to the work across industry. So, Ken Coughlin.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, there we go. So I'm sure I speak for a lot of us here. It's great to see such a cross-section of the industry brought together here today by the DFT and by the ORE Catapult organization. And it's great to see so many faces ready to kick this off. So to introduce myself, I'm a naval architect working for Siemens Gamesa within our offshore readiness, offshore service logistics, department. So basically what we do is we work in the service organization and we design, work with designers, charter, operate CTVs, jackups and SOVs. So I'd like to acknowledge that across the industry we know there are many companies who have already started their journey to net zero. Siemens Gamesa, we have also done so. We have committed to be net zero by 2040, and this includes our supply chain. We are committing to the Operation Zero pledge today, as like all of you here, we would like to join the collective effort to tackle climate change and to build on the momentum from the agreements made here at COP26. Siemens Gamesa have also recently announced that we are committed to making our blades fully recyclable by 2030 and our turbines, the entire turbine, by 2040. We've also been committing to encouraging the market in the offshore floating wind, into green hydrogen, and into energy storage. So it's key that as a company, we are very keen to promote and encourage the green future. Looking specifically at O&M offshore wind vessels, The majority of these are burning marine gas oil, as we're aware. And Siemens Gamesa, we believe we are responsible for around 25% of these emissions. We have a fleet of 1 jackup, intermittently followed by others, 8 SOVs permanently, between 20 and 40 CTVs per year, depending on the time of the year. We're a leader in offshore wind in terms of gigawatts installed. So we believe it is our responsibility, along with others, to tackle the challenge to decarbonise O&M vessels in offshore wind. Paulina Hobbs, our CEO for Northern Europe and the Middle East, she's invited me to speak today on her behalf because I've been involved in a lot of initiatives in the company to start our journey to investigate decarbonising offshore vessels. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about our work so far. So basically I posed the question, what are we going to do? What technology exists, or what technological investments do we need to see for the short, medium and long term? Because we expect that there could be multiple solutions suitable for different vessels and also in different areas of operation. So to begin with, we have at the Friesland offshore wind farm in the Netherlands, we are trialling a conventional ship with a Tier 3 engine and some some catalytic converters, and also some hydrogenated vegetable oil. Now we know this is not a long-term solution, but this could be the stepping stone to decarbonising vessels in the offshore wind sector. What's key here is this is a sheltered area with a short sailing time, so it's going to give us the learnings to see if we can then export this into the North Sea, and this is one of the projects. Additionally, here in the UK, we are facilitating the trial of offshore charging at the Lynn and Innerdausing wind farm, so no thunderstruck there. And also in the Netherlands, we're also very keen with the customer to trial a hydrogen-powered ship. We haven't decided if it's combustion or if it's a fuel cell, but we'd like to partner it with a pilot project to use a electrolyzer connected to the wind farm to generate green hydrogen. So we'd like to do this locally, 2 pilot projects in parallel. Now, looking further offshore at the SOVs and the jackups, we've also been active in this space. So within the past 18 months, all of the SOVs that we've chartered have been prepared for either green hydrogen power units or for fully electrified. So this is just demonstrating we haven't invested fully into that solution, but we're trying to take steps today that make this more achievable and to enable the technology in the coming years. Furthermore, we have an SOV working at the Viamata wind farm, and this ship will be retrofit with batteries to become a hybrid ship by 2022. So it'll work alongside our MGO, but essentially it will reduce the marine fuel consumption at the wind farm by operating the engines at a more optimal load. And we have, I believe, Bibi represented in the room today. So one of our long-term chartered SOVs at the Hohesy and Albatross wind farm, it is partaking in a study that Bibi are conducting, which is the Project Wavemaster 0C. And this is a feasibility study to assess green fuels for SOVs in the future. So as you can see, these demonstrate we are trying to collaborate with as many partners as possible to assess all of the different potentials in the areas and the types of technology. So we're excited to work with this forum, and we think we can bring a lot of information to the group. Looking further to growth, the CFD Round 4 auction due to be announced next summer outlines the scale of the market growth forecast for the UK. Additionally, we're expecting that offshore floating wind will grow significantly. So we have a challenge to achieve net zero emissions with our current fleet. That's clear. But this fleet will expand to match the growth of the industry. So we need to be really careful, and it's imperative that we act now. We need to avoid emissions growing rather than reducing from O&M vessels in offshore wind. I'll just take a quick drink. Going green has an economic benefit for creating jobs for the UK. We've recently announced the expansion of our Hull blade factory with the addition of 200 direct jobs. We expect that vessel designers, shipyards and ports will see growth in jobs as they develop the vessels and the infrastructure for the future. It is vital that Operation Zero achieves real change. This is our opportunity to utilise the springboard given to us here by the Department for Transport and from ORE Capital. If we do not utilise this forum, it's very possible that we'll go in different directions and then we will not achieve our emissions reduction targets. So it's time for us industry players to chart our course and to leave a green legacy. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Ken. Always nice to have a nautical reference in there, charting course. Yeah, very good. Much appreciated, certainly by me. I've been asked just to summarise and sort of reflect on some of the comments from the speakers, and there's a few bits to cover. So from Petra, from government, if you like, we've heard about the importance of partnership between government and industry, the importance of engaging with the depth and breadth of the value chain, as reflected here tonight, and about their continued commitment to supporting the transition through not least innovation, hydrogen strategy, multi-year settlement on clean maritime demonstration. From Andrew at the Catapult, he began by talking about having to work his way through a long and boring speech. Well, I drafted it, so I'm not sure not sure where that places me, but I think he did a very good job. We heard about the scaling challenge that the industry faces. You know, this industry is going to go from 25 gigawatts today to 400 gigawatts by 2050. That's, you know, almost beyond comprehension, a 16-fold growth in 30 years. So whilst things may seem imperfect now, we're still right at the beginning. It's, you know, hour one, really, in the grand scheme of things. So huge opportunity. We heard about the UK economic opportunity and the levelling up benefits of clean maritime. We heard about the importance of innovation and the fact that in order to seize this economic opportunity, we're going to have to innovate, we're going to have to compete on value and on quality rather than on cost. And we're going to have to innovate not just on vessels, but the ecosystem, the infrastructure required to drive the transition. And then from Ken, fantastic to hear, commitment to net zero by 2040, including scope 3, focus on new technologies of floating, hydrogen and storage, 25% of emissions claimed by Siemens Gamesa. That's A, very honest, and B, very encouraging. You know, as a signatory to Operation Zero, that means we've got 25% of that emissions owned within the partnership, so fantastic. We heard about a willingness to take responsibility and seize the opportunity of the Operation Zero initiative. And we heard about some of the early steps that you're taking in terms of offshore charging demos, hydrogen vessel demos, and also really interestingly, hydrogen production. So it's one of the things I think is very unique about this industry is its potential to be both an end user and a producer of zero emission future fuels, which I think puts us again in a very unique situation. And all three speakers spoke about the importance of collaboration, partnership, and long-term commitment and continued support. So some absolutely fantastic comments there, fills me with enthusiasm. And so I suppose now, and apologies to Petra, obviously she wouldn't have had to speak twice, but I'm going to have to call her back to now introduce Operation Zero before we then call signatories up on stage for the signing. So Petra.
Thank you very much, Stuart. So Operation Zero is a project in the making since 2019. Over the last 2 years, you have shown your enthusiasm and commitment to high ambition in decarbonising this sector. For this and for your engagement with this initiative, we sincerely thank you. It gives me great pleasure, therefore, to launch Operation Zero. I sort of feel like I need champagne or something. And unveil its signatories. So, although this is the exciting bit, could you hold back on the applause until we get through the full list? Because there are a lot. And we're going to try showing you these on screen as I read them out. So let's hope I don't get out of sequence. So to start with, we have Aberdeen Harbour, Associated British Ports, Aluminium Marine Consultants, BAR Technologies, okay, Bibby Marine Services, Cedar Marine, Chartwell Marine, Equinor, SVAT, GE Power Conversation, Global Marine Group, Lloyd's Register, the Maritime Skills Alliance, MJR Power and Automation, North Star Renewables, Ørsted, Park Wind, Port of Cromarty Firth, Port of Esbjerg, RWE, Scottish Power Renewables, CCAT Services, Siemens Gamesa, Strategic Marine, Tidal Transit, Vattenfall, Windcat Workboats, and the Workboats Association. So that's our full list, and that is an amazing list, so really, really thanks to everybody. And I would invite you to now join me in a round of applause celebrating these signatories and the official launch of Operation Zero.
I'm not sure if everybody caught that. Andrew said it could be the best signing event of COP26, and yeah, joking aside, I mean that is a tremendous list. And apologies, I did have some very well prepared statistics in terms of what percentage of different segments, OEMs, operators, ports, and so on that represented. The trouble is that right up until the 11th hour, we've had new signatories coming on board, so it's thrown all of the statistics out the window. We will obviously summarise that though, but suffice to say, it's a big old chunk. So fantastic to have have you all here tonight. Obviously, enjoy the drinks. There'll be cocktails and so on and so forth afterwards. I would like to ask all of the signatory organisations to stick here though, whilst the rest kind of depart and enjoy drinks, just for a photo, and then we'll soon be through to join you. So yeah, many thanks to the department, to Andrew and to Ken, and thank you all for attending. Please enjoy a drink, and if the signatories, as I say, could come up to the stage for a quick photo, that would be fantastic. Thank you.